Folks, welcome to another Hope, Power, and Healthcare with Chris Hemphill and
The Melissa Riley.
the Melissa Riley. That's how you own the room right there.
As we all should.
Yes, yes. You talked about the guide to owning the room, and now you're doing it. Love it. How the hell are you?
This week has been incredible. I'm sad that the summer is coming to a close. And I'm a little bit excited for fall conference season because it's just, we're going to be everywhere. But it's been a good August. I mean, Taylor Swift got engaged. What can be wrong in the world?
But when the summer closes, like 'tis the season of Virgos. It turns out
Yeah.
everybody on this involved in producing this podcast is a Virgo, right?
Did you see my latest Instagram post, Chris? Because
No, I am not following. I need to correct that. I'll do that right now.
I love that. That's literally what I posted. I go, it's Virgo season. Goals are in sight.
Yes, goals in sight, birthdays ahead, and we'll announce those pretty soon. But I
Yeah,
think
well,
yours and
happy
mine are in the same
birthday.
week.
I know, I love that. I will have to do a special birthday episode for our birthday week. But a huge happy birthday to Alyssa, who celebrated her birthday last week or this
Happy,
past week.
happy birthday, Alyssa, and thanks for kicking off the season of Virgos for us. With that, what you been up to this week? Anything that, like, before we jump into our topic, which for the folks listening, there's this MIT study that's come out, and everybody's touting it as 95% failure for AI use cases. It's the No Hot Takes podcast, right? We're gonna get in and go deep and talk about where healthcare innovators might want to be thinking based on what MIT has put out. It's really actually a really good report. I encourage people to read the whole thing, but we'll do a deep dive in that a little bit later. But Melissa, what's up this week?
Well, in the week of no hot takes, Chris, I have been deep in work and conference recovery. So I know last episode we talked a lot about my AI brain health conference and then made it to the Kennedy Forum, the Lion Forum, which was incredible. And then I closed out the week with some time at the Florida Behavioral Health Conference, which was phenomenal because I just randomly met someone from Precision Behavioral Health. Shout out to my new friend Art Erickson. Just kind of sit in the lobby. Our behavioral health friends are everywhere. So coming down off of all of the conferencing and all the meeting, I was doing a ton of follow-ups this past week, Chris, and then met a lot of new clients. So a ton of new client onboarding this past week.
Well, I want to ask you a quick question about conferencing in general. A lot of people listening, you're building your business, you're building your brand, and you're over there to meet people. What's the way to do that without like and being respectful of people's time? Because I see it so that like a session ends and there's a bum rush towards the stage, everybody getting in line trying to pitch and pitch and pitch these people. What's your secret to having meaningful people and having meaningful conversations on the conference floor when you don't know anybody?
Well, okay, so huge shout out to my friend Susan Rowan, who wrote the book How to Work a Room, a perennial favorite. We will, post up her book for the fam. I think that is such an excellent guide for like how to check and see if the speaker wants to speak with you at the end of the conference or after at the end of the talk, right? Because it's incredible for you to have that moment to connect people with people live, and I just love that. But I often find it's wonderful to be short and memorable, leave a card and ask, be respectful and ask, is there a good time for me to follow up, and whether it's with that person or someone on their team, catching someone in a bad moment is just as bad as not catching them at all. And so I'm always trying to check for that receptivity of the speaker to myself and or my company that I'm trying to, introduce them to.
Great, great. And that's an important skill because a lot of people they don't do that, and they end up blowing a lot of hot air on these people. They're trying to move on to the next person. They're overwhelmed. They want to get off that stage and relax. You got to read that room, folks.
Yeah, it's so important. But I also think conferences more so than ever have become these places where people really are trying to make that human to human connection, Chris. I know you do a ton of that, shout out back to your Dean Browell interview. I do think people want to be heard and they want to be listened to and they want to connect with someone else. And I always think partnership, just like being fractional, is definitely the way forward. And so I love to watch companies come together or, people to make new vendor partners or provider partners at these events.
It really is, and if you make yourself available and inviting in a way that people don't feel like they're being sold, then it opens a door. And I'll tell you, my little accidental secret is like I love cameras and I love playing
No,
around.
you.
So every time I go when I go to a conference, I'm like, aha, I'm going to watch the session, but that's also an excuse to play with my camera, get some photos of the panel for the LinkedIn's and things like that. And if the photos are good, like I'll go up and say, hey man, what did you think about that? You look good. And then like that just results in some crazy connections. One connection example, I'm going to call her name out. She's a data science and AI leader at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. Dr. Samta Shukla gave a really good talk at a conference last year, 2024, and I exchanged the photos, but like we're both into data science and AI and things like that. And after just a year of back and forth, we're like, what if we just go on a Zoom call and talk to each other? And I just found out some really amazing things that she's leading over there, and it kind of going deeper on that narrative too that we've been talking about, where big companies can out innovate and can move faster than small companies. She might be good for like an eventual episode where and actually a counterpart of mine over on Scan, who's a client of ours. Yeah, there might be a good talk on, hey, we're always talking about like innovating at the smaller, scrappier startup levels, but we should also be inclusive of like, hey, how do you make things move? What are the types of things that we should be pushing for, and how do we do that at large organizations?
Yeah, and speaking of Scan, I hope it's okay to speak of that. Their ad campaign on healthcare is broken, brilliant and beautiful. Like so not was not on my planned agenda for us today, Chris, but I loved it. And I even loved the CEO's response to their competitors who, fired back. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, if you think it's not broken, I thought that
Seriously.
was great.
Yeah, for the folks, and we'll have a link to the YouTube video in the comments. But yeah, campaign that was bold enough to say in the scan red font, uh, health insurance is broken, and no, and everybody's afraid to call it out, something like that. The idea that somebody, like, after all that we've been through, and after seeing the overwhelming consumer response, after the assassination of the UHG,
Fine. Yep.
like, it's not the time to buck back and say it's not broken. That's not the time.
And that is not a hot take.
Yeah.
It really isn't. I mean, like, literally, I think across the board, everyone talks about the misaligned incentives that exist here. And so I'm not sure how anyone can say, oh, no, it's not broken. It's not
Yeah.
a hot take. It's just a fact.
Yeah. Like, yeah, even if you are having a good experience, you're that high NPS customer and everything like that, you would still acknowledge that overall, like, you were lucky within a broken system.
Totally. My one of my favorite news channels, KTLA, Channel 5 out of LA. Like I love how I think a lot of times the news media will pick up some of the KTLA clips. I'll post up KTLA's take on it because I thought it was quite interesting. Like this is now everywhere. It's pervasive how much that campaign was picked up just in the common ecosystem. So, kudos to Scan. They really did a great job of hitting a nerve. And, I don't think I've seen this much excitement for a healthcare campaign in marketing. I know we started in data scientists since United Healthcare did their campaign to the Dirty Dancing music with the human that tries to lift the other human and falls, and then they start spouting out CPT codes. Like, this scans campaign has now replaced that campaign as my favorite healthcare campaign of all times.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we love to hear it, and shoot, we should bring on some healthcare marketers and have some conversations about that too. I've got some people in mind for that.
Yeah, what if we did a marketing versus data scientist, uh, some kind
All
of grudge
about it.
match? I think that would be
Sign me
super
up.
fun. Yeah. What
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
innovations that are happening on the marketing side versus the innovations happening on the data side? How are they alike or how are they dissimilar?
We gonna let that air roll out. There's boxing gloves that we put on, but like they should emerge as friends. I love working with marketers. Um, Moving on, I guess it's time to like we got to move a little bit fast, and this is a deep report. But what about this report? I'm going to pull it up on screen for the folks that are watching on the YouTubes. But we're talking about this report that came out of MIT called the Gen AI Divide, the state of AI in business in 2025. The headline, the kind of the buzzy hot take that's been coming out of it because it grabs attention is a bunch of articles saying that 95% of all AI use cases fail in business. Melissa, I know that wasn't you said it wasn't flowing around quite as much in your circle, but when you did see that, what was your gut reaction to like, hey, there's all this investment in this stuff, but I'm seeing a high failure rate. What was your gut reaction to some of the high level buzz around that?
Is it terrible if I say like duh? Like, does anyone say that anymore?
I bring it back.
You're like, have another take on that, which is not hot. Um, okay, so anytime you have like a new entrant, such as I will call AI a new entrant. Of course, there's going to be a failure in the application. So I think we're living through this first generation, and I think depending on where you sit, Chris, you have a different reaction. So we already had this talk about the classifiers of the deep, deep innovators are like AI should be everywhere. And then I take the role of still the payer, even though I'm still not totally out of payer, right? Where I'm like, like, yes, AI is the next wave of automation for your admin pieces, but there's still some concerns about the practical application of AI into your deeply clinical pieces. And so understanding that, there's a whole school of thought between should AI be everywhere and should AI only be applied to administrative things, like there's a lot of space for a lot of different solutions to be able to come forward. But I have to imagine that some of the things that we bet on even a year ago, the way that the AI tech is moving, that has been confirmed to me at some of the great events that I have been attending, it could wipe out, or it does wipe out, you know, G1s of companies that have been started, just because
What do
the,
you mean with G1s? What are G1s?
oh, I
And
was just
that's
saying like,
me
I was,
legitimately asking.
oh, no, I was thinking I was just, shortening generation, right? To be
Oh,
able to say like V1 or G, maybe I put
ah,
generation and V together, but I mean, like, there are, just edit that whole thing out. But, but Chris, I mean, think about it. Like, I can totally tell the difference between GPT 5 and 4, and it's already massively better. So, what happens when you built your whole business on GPT 1? Is there a GPT 1? Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. The ancient days. That was the old school pre Chat GPT days. You had like GPT two, and that was when you were starting to get coherent content. I just remember going around showing people this like weird recipe that it generated like in 2019 at a hymns conference, and nobody cared. It was so crazy to me. I was like, you don't look at this schlocky recipe, you don't care about this, come on, this is amazing. But yeah, it's gotten people's attention now. But yeah, so much truth in the concept of duh, in terms of like there's a lot of people who feel like they're dancing on the grave of the technology and everything like that, but that's not really the case. And I would say that like in our Discord, there was a conversation. There's some really smart people in there discussing their thoughts on it. And the immediate question is, I see a 95% rate, but they say compared to what? There's a high rate of failure for new startups, new entrants in business. There's a high rate of failure, as a former colleague of mine, Matt Alhanti, pointed out, in IT projects in general, 60 to 80%. So to have a new technology that honestly does require different ways of thinking. We're going from things that are determined and a straightforward A equals A, same output every time. That was the old paradigm of software. But now we're getting to these probabilistic measures and measures of accuracy and things like that. And yeah, that implementing that successfully does take some new skills and new thinking, and that there's this experimentation time and period where people figure it out over time, and we get from that 95% to maybe 90 to 85%.
Well, and if I think back to a lot of points in my career, I spent a ton of my career being a product or project or some sort of manager, like running a project. And most of those projects included some level of either technology enhancement, Chris, or some level of automation, right? So I always look at automation as the V1 of AI, where the thing could do this thing for you because you wrote a SQL query or you went into Excel and you programmed it to be able to do that. Now, that is not autonomous AI. That is me doing programming, but there isn't a moment where it works on its own, right? So we for years took apart processes and tried to insert moments of automation into that. And so I think we're trying that again at a more massive level.
Yeah.
Thoughts, reactions?
So it's 100%. And the main thing, the main takeaway, like when you say, hey, we were doing automations and like figuring out workflows and things like that, that's still really a very similar process. You just have more tools available now. I always bring up this browser automation example where like the pure AI version of browser automation is so slow compared to deeply learning the interface that you're creating, and like going step by step through a process, but then you get into a bump in the road. The thing that you're programming needs to know if it needs to click on this or that because of like you were doing a query about a particular type of doctor, and it needs to make that decision on the fly. So you just have more tools available. If you go full bore in AI, thinking that like you're just letting technology lead the ship, then you're going to be very slow. But if you go through it thoughtfully and identify where where those decision points are needed, that's what we're seeing as the fastest development platform, design pattern right
Chris,
now.
are you seeing a lot more demand for data scientists because people are trying to implement AI? Like, who is leading? Even when I look at a lot of my work, it's still not, hey, Melissa, come in and, automate us. Someone must be getting asked to do that. Is that where you and your data scientist friends are finding a lot of work? Like, come
Yeah.
in and evaluate us for AI?
See, the ask is that, like I'm out here saying, hey, go and test your limits. Like if you have never developed software before, at the very least, go and test your limits. Go on Lovable or Replit
Yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Chris McKelvey just did a whole thing where he said he built his K Ventures website with Lovable, right? He tested his limits.
Yeah. So you like when you build like websites and things that have common patterns, and then you go the extra mile and figure out like how to get things live and stuff like that. It develops a little bit of muscle, but at the very least, you get better about communicating what it is you want out of people that go deeper down that tech direction. The time that people have been bringing me into their interactions is they've built out a prototype. Typically they have an idea of something, but they know that AI, like AI it can lie. There's just things that like if I'm going through something and I throw a prompt up and it looks like it worked, then you shouldn't just think that it worked because it worked that one time. Because again, we're not dealing with A equals A. We're dealing with probabilistic systems. And the majority of the AI requests that I've been getting have been help us understand how efficacious and how consistent our prompting strategy is. So it's like we've built out this concept of a system, but now we want to make sure to drive the adoption that we need consistent, reliable outputs, and we need to make sure that there is some sort of grounding or understanding or trace back behind what's being presented, and an actual ground truth. So
almost like an AI safety system.
Exactly that. Like you were able to build out this framework and concept, and you want to make sure that it's like actually doing the thing that it looked like it did when you were testing around with it. So we're talking, it's a simple concept too. In data science, we love to, as data scientists, we love to scale up operations, look at thousands and thousands and thousands of iterations and see where things broke, figure out why, and dissect that and solve the problem. So even though that list that we shared of jobs at risk, data science was high on the chopping block, sadly. When it comes to the these types of problems where people get to these scenarios that you can't prompt your way out of, that's kind of when they want to bring in the experts and go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how much cost savings they're able to drive out of their companies just because they've been able to successfully implement AI. Are you seeing that in your travels, Chris?
Well, let's talk. Let's go this way, because
Yeah,
we did bring up the document, and then we didn't bring up the document. And the reason I wanted the big reason I wanted to
yeah.
share
Let's go into the document. Yes.
yes, because the cool thing about this thing is not even that it has this metric that got a lot of attention, that 95% metric. It's these sections right here. You're crossing the Gen AI divide, how the best builders succeed. Like they talked with 52 leaders at companies across 9 different industries, and they looked at, well, there's the 95% failure rate, but what's setting apart these organizations that are in the 5% that are succeeding? So
So just to be clear, you haven't actually talked to any of these 5%, though. I'm totally teasing you. Have you?
Hey, we're building the 5%. Come on now, that going through, rolling up the sleeves, getting dirty with them. But I don't know who they talked to. I don't
Yeah.
we didn't talk to anybody in their sample, but there's some.
Let's go to that section. Yeah, show us
Yes.
that section. Go to 4 and 5 because I think that's what our fam totally cares about, right?
That's yeah. What we don't need is a bunch of doom and gloom overall headlines, and we need to get to what's up. So let's take a look. Barriers. So this is our builder section. You're out here building. You're wondering why pilots are stalling and things like that. Here are some of the barriers, and again, y'all, this is across industries. It's not just healthcare, but it looks pretty similar. It looks pretty similar to what we experience and see in healthcare, right? Challenging
The
change.
first one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh. Challenging change management, lack of executive sponsorship, poor user experience. You got the last two.
Model output quality concerns, meaning you present something to a physician, you present something to a provider group, and they
They
don't
go
believe
no
the
effing
outputs.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And unwillingness to adopt new tools goes right around to that change management aspect.
I could
But
have said all of this about automation. I could have said this about all, like, this goes back to the duh. I could have said all of
duh.
this around, why did change not happen in the org? There's nothing here other than maybe the model output quality concerns that's new to AI.
And so, that's been my world since getting into data science in 2018, which is understand, like, when we're talking about model output quality concerns, something that your clinicians and experts, subject matter experts, don't believe is something that is not going to get used and it's not going to get renewed. So our big focus was like we knew that there was an increase in accuracy and a expansion in patients that were able to be targeted by some of these models for services that they needed, but we had to go the extra mile and extra step to not just using black box approaches or opaque box approaches, but also making sure that there is an understanding of what's happening when this thing gets things right, when it gets things wrong, and comparing it to the to the current standard. So when you're thinking about avoiding these failure cases that have existed through all of time, that's something to really glean on into is having that tough conversation early on with clinical audiences or financial audiences or the other people that are going to have like a really big influence over the decision.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I love that last line around, employees know what good AI feels like, and that makes them less tolerant for a bad enterprise experience, right? Going back to like these big, large companies, as they work to roll this all the way through, are going to hit much more challenges than just the individual figures out how to automate themselves.
That is a good point. That's a good point. The document actually went heavily into the fact that a lot of builders out there, they'll build an enterprise specific Gen AI solution, and people will ignore it to use the Chat GPT or whatever solution they're comfortable with, the individual one. And when it gets into why, I think that it gets into that in this next chapter. How the best, we were talking about the barriers, but how the best builders succeed. A big reason that people are still sticking with the individual platforms and things like that is because the ones that were custom built for the enterprise weren't necessarily learning from experiences, and they weren't getting updated at the pace that those bigger general models were. So people felt like that they were able to get better experiences and better answers out of the generic Chat GPT if there hadn't been enough work to integrate like the needs and workflows and processes of the enterprise they were trying to sell into.
Oh my God, this brings us back, Chris, to our last episode when we talked to the Clayton Christensen Institute. It just sounds like they totally missed the jobs to be done and totally understanding the user personas of what people needed, right? So if you don't understand how the thing works, you like lost it.
Yes,
the job to be done is like complete the task.
Exactly. Yeah, they're missing out so watch that previous episode. We'll put a link to our last episode in the chat. You got to watch that jobs to be done episode to get a good concept on why people are the why behind the buy, as Alyssa put it. But the on screen, what we have here is what executives want from Gen AI vendors is trustworthiness, a deep understanding of their workflows, minimal disruption to current tools, clear data boundaries, improvement over time, and that goes into that learning over time, and flexibility when things change. I'm going to give a personal example. So so Zambezi has cleared us that they're actually a marketing firm that was originally founded by Kobe Bryant and is now it's a woman-owned marketing firm out of Los Angeles, and they're actually a client.
Chris, did you know Kobe Bryant?
No, that's not how we got the connection in there.
I loved him. Keep going. Sorry.
But we're going through growing pains in terms of there are details and data elements that they're trying to hit and numbers that they're accustomed to, and just right out the box, right out the gate, the system that we were building wasn't jiving with some of the numbers and some of the expectations that they had. And there were some workflow elements, like it's not just an AI, it's also the user experience, how it's being delivered across servers and things like that. Well, there's a lot of back and forth that we're addressing. A prototype is easy. It's easy to get a proof of concept out there, but it's hard to then figure out like how that really slates into those workflows. So I think that there, like when we're thinking about that 95% failure rate, it makes me think that maybe people are getting to that point where they're being questioned, they're being called out, and rather than like working and going through iterations and improving the tools and adapting to workflows, they might just be giving up and being pushed to the wayside. I don't know, but it just seems like you get to that point, and if you don't have the particular set of skills and the endurance and commitment, then you miss out.
Well, and does that go to like where we talked about in the previous chapter, where we're so used to just typing what we want into ChatGPT and getting enough of a good response, or we feel like it's a good response, it seems like it's working for us. Why doesn't it work so easy inside this very large system?
See, there's I don't know exactly what page it's on, but there's a delineation here that looks at if someone has a really highly like technical use case that requires a lot of subject matter expertise. That's kind of when ChatGPT breaks down. That's when they rely on other systems. They'll either rely on working with their fellows, or they'll like if there's a good enterprise solution that is that's generated and created around their workflow, then that's when they start relying on those systems. But for the higher level use cases and things like that, lower risk use cases, they use ChatGPT, so that means that like if you're building, then you don't want to do something that's just replicating what a ChatGPT would tell them. Instead, you want to do something like your moat is being deeply embedded into a workflow, such that like if they were to like if GPT 17 were to come out and be super intelligent, well, you're so embedded in the workflow and have such an understanding of this company's specific processes that like
It'd be
the smarter.
inefficient. Yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be inefficient to rip you out and replace. Yeah.
exactly.
Gives us a ton to think about. And I think this book chapter, this article, it's a very deep article, it might be super helpful for the fam.
Yes, yeah. So ignore the headlines. It doesn't matter that there's a 95% failure rate. There's a high failure rate with new things all the time anyway. There's no dancing on graves here. This
Duh.
art, yeah, yeah, it's a big old duh. Who cares? Go read if you read the document, and this is for builders and for buyers, because the final chapter also tells you what qualities to look for out of buyers as well. And it listed out like some kind of technical workflowy things. I want to throw one out there, which is like talk to people that have endurance and are committed, because like we're bumping around in new ways of thinking. A lot of people don't know how to deal with probability. They know how to deal with like deterministic, like this is what you get type systems, but that's changing. So it takes a lot more endurance and wherewithal and patience to get what you want out of these like out of things that employ like a generative or AI probabilistic paradigm.
Chris, you're such a marathon runner. I love that you're encouraging the fam to have resilience and grit. Like, hey, don't quit at mile 6. You gotta get
That's
into
what's
at least
up.
11 if you're doing a half marathon.
Yeah, and if you end up with like a time you were aiming for that 2 hour time, you made 2 hour and 30 minutes, or if you're running a full marathon and you wanted to do it in 4 hours but you did it in 5, you're still in the 0.05% of the population who got out and did the whole thing. Like, just be patient with yourself and don't give up when the challenges start looking insurmountable. Do not.
Totally. And I have a pop culture little, it's, let's just call it a momentlet. Like it's even smaller than a moment. And so this was just something that my daughter told me. I think, oh no, wait, it was my son told me this. And I'm going, where do you learn this thing? Like, how do you know this? So apparently there is a man who has been walking for 27 years, and his goal is to walk from Chile all the way to the UK. And I go, Declan, that's not even feasible. How does one do that? But apparently, if you ask your Alexa, they will tell you that there is a man, and I will post it in the chat, who's been walking for 27 years. He crossed the little Bering Strait, the little land bridge over in from Alaska to Russia, and then apparently he got stuck in Russia for a couple months and then now he's still walking. 27 years. Now that is grit and resilience.
This guy here, this guy is going to be the theme of my life. Please, yeah, please post that.
What about you? How do we end on your pop culture moment?
What is my pop culture moment? I've already done this. I've already told everybody to go out and look for weird stuff that's happening in your town. But gosh, what? Give me a pop culture thing.
You need a momentlet, and that Carl Bushby. Carl Bushby is your guy.
Carl, but yeah, okay, then we'll have to share in it. But I will say this. Okay, here's something. What you should do, like if you want that marathon experience, like you don't have to get out and run a marathon day one or even commit to running a marathon day one. But the thing that you can do to get like a really nice experience is go and volunteer at an aid station at a race or a trail race. Look up
Hmm.
on things like ultra sign up. Yeah, do it at an ultra marathon, honestly. Like if you go and volunteer at an aid station at a 100-mile marathon, then what you're going to see, you're going to be out there at like 2 in the morning, and there's going to be people out there running with their headlamps, and they're going to seem all desperate. They're going to have their highs and lows, and you're going to see some grit. You're going to see some hurt, but also the elation that comes when they cross that finish line. 100-mile runners, they're a fun breed to be around. But yeah, go on to Ultra Sign Up. Look for trail stuff going on in your area, and go and cook some good burritos for these fine people running at 3 in the morning and having the time of their lives. Actually, I know I'm gonna shout out a
So I think
friend,
our theme
Emma
is.
Stapleton. She's a
Oh,
oh, I
no,
just
no,
wanted
go ahead. Shout out Emil
uh,
State. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, yeah, Emma Stapleton. She's a former data science colleague of mine from Actium Health, but she just did her first 50-mile ultra over the past week, and told me about it, told me about the experience and all that, and that's my hype of the week. So, just encouraging people to talk to your ultra runners out there. They're fun.
I love this so much. So I think the theme of our episode is state of AI. Be like Carl Bushby. Keep going.
Yes, the Carl Bushby of AI.
Well, as always, Chris, it is a blast getting to spend a little bit of time with you and Alyssa, and keep on as we enter Virgo season. We're going to encourage all of our innovators to keep it up. We're more than halfway through the year, and we've got a lot more to go in this innovation landscape.
And straight up, y'all, don't run this marathon alone. Join our Discord. There was actually a really lively discussion happening around this AI document, which kind of hyped me up to get there talking about it. But bring your stuff, bring what you're talking about, bring what you're concerned about to our Discord, and talk to some fellow nerds that'll hack it out with you.
Yeah, and if you have found some great AI hacks that have made yourself more productive, like and share. There was an incredible, Facebook, I'm still on that social media every once in a
Same.
while page that was talking about like what are your best life hacks. I would encourage our fam to share AI hacks that have made them more productive. And the more detailed they are on how to execute it, probably the better.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that in the Discord. Y'all
I
have
love that.
fun. I know you got to get to the meeting, Melissa. We will see you next time.